Hi, I'm Ton Vin, and this is Seattle Eats, a food podcast from the Seattle Times and KUOW. I've been a food writer in Seattle for more than a decade. I also review wines and whiskeys. See, Mom, I told y'all that drinking in college would pay off one day. Here on this show, I'm going to talk happy hour and fancy dining and everything else in between, from pop-ups to gas station JoJo's. I love food, and you're listening because you love food too. In this episode, I'll tell you about the hottest new restaurant this fall, a big dim sum hall in the heart of Chinatown. But first, pizza. We at the Seattle Times just wrap up our hotly contested pizza bracket, a March Madness for pie. Readers chose the winners. There were 32 pizzerias. That dropped to 16. Then 8, until we had a final 4. Oh, there were upsets. There was grease and a lot of Alka-Seltzer. And in the end, there was one pie to rule them all. Today, my fellow food writers and I are counting down the top 4 pizzerias in Seattle. Ready? Let's get to it. Who makes the best pizza in Seattle? I called in some super friends from the Seattle Times to discuss this very topic. Bethany Jean Clement, Seattle Times food writer. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here, and I can feel my cape flowing behind me.
And Jackie Varriano, also a Seattle Times food writer. Glad you're here, Jackie.
Me too.
Jackie, you're like my cubby mate. You sit near me. So tell the listeners what a great colleague I am. And a human being, heart of gold. I'm kidding. Sorta. But I am serious about pizza. Let's start with the big question. Like, what do you even look for in a pizza? A good pizza.
It's a triumvirate, of course, because what is pizza? Pizza is delicious bread, amazing tomato in the form of sauce, and hopefully the world's greatest cheeses. Each one, I think, matters equally.
Yeah, agreed. It can't just be one thing.
I think I'm about the dough. The dough has to taste like something. It can't just be there to hold everything together as a vessel. It has to have some taste.
The right amount of salt in a dough is incredibly important, and there should not be any sugar cough dominoes.
Well, I mean, I feel like I could get down with a little sweetness. Get down with the sweetness.
Yeah, when's the last time you had Domino's or read through their ingredient list? More importantly, it is chemical.
I don't actually remember the last time I had a Domino's / Papa John's / Pizza Hut. Little Caesars? I don't even know.
I feel like pizza is so deeply personal.
True.
I do not want to ever shame anyone about the pizza that they love because pizza is amazing. And I feel like your childhood experiences with pizza are very formative. And if you started out with Domino's, if that's what you grew up eating, if you grew up eating pizza,
true,
then that could still be your favorite. And I respect that.
Agreed.
I grew up eating Pagliacci's here in Seattle. And I'm still a fan with some qualifications at this point.
Yeah, it hits. On a certain night, definitely.
Okay, let's talk about the bracket. So early this summer, we asked Seattle Times readers who makes the best pizza in Seattle. And after 13,000 votes, we have a winner. Readers picked their favorite. We picked our favorite. And in a rare kumbaya moment, we all agreed. But before we get to the winner, let's give some love for the runner-up. Coming in at number 4, Delancey and Ballard. Bethany, you're a Delancey fan. Tell us about it.
I've been a fan of Delancey since the beginning, which was 15 entire years ago now. Brandon Pettit, one of the original co-owners and the pizza super nerd there, is still in charge. He took pilgrimages to try the most revered pizzas all around the country, from Pizzeria Bianco in Phoenix to Di Fara in New York. And he tried different kinds of dough, and he made pizza at different altitudes. His crust, I think, just knocks it out of the park. The salt level is perfect. It comes out with that leopard print on the bottom that everybody loves and seeks out. It's just delicious.
And I would add that he was probably one of the first, Bethany, to really use fancy sausage on their pizza.
He uses incredible ingredients, many of them local across the board. His cheese list will make a cheese lover just start weeping with joy.
Thank you, Bethany. On to number 3, Post Alley Pizza in downtown near Pike Place Market. Jackie, you know a lot about this place.
So it's been around since 1997, but the current ownership took over in 2021. And I think it changed a lot over the years, and it still is kind of evolving into itself, but they do a New York-ish style. And I just really love the incredible flavorful sauce. That's my favorite part of this pizza because I do love a fresh tomato sauce, but I also love like a zingy, oregano heavy, bursting with flavor kind of a sauce. And that's what Post Alley does so well.
I would say that this was our most controversial discussion.
Oh, totally.
In terms of the four pizza. You love the pizza, Jackie, and you like the crust. Bethany, you had other thoughts. Tell me your issue with Post Alley.
Post Alley pizza sauce is not my favorite, with all due respect, Jackie.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
I have found with the particular whole pies I've had over the years since Post Alley has been under its new ownership, I've gotten crusts that seemed too dry and sort of crackery.
I do think that they can be a little uneven, but that's just part of humans, right?
Sure.
Humans making pizza in a super busy shop. I don't think I've ever been to Post Alley where there hasn't been a line out the door of like slice seekers. And then there's little old me being like, I need 2 whole pizzas and at least 2 hoagies.
And I'm going to start eating them in the car.
I'm going to start eating them in the car, potentially right outside the shop.
For me, I think the crust has this chew that's almost like a New York bagel. So I see why New Yorkers love this pizza, this crust anyway. I mean, this crust was clearly made by a pizza geek or a bread baker. It just has a very distinctive flavor. And if we were to do a taste test, that's a blindfolded taste test, I think all of us could pick out Post Alley. It's such a distinctive dough.
I could, for sure.
Jackie, you talk about the sauce, and I would say for me, I thought Post Alley tomato sauce was thicker than the other 3 candidates in our final 4.
Definitely thicker, and I felt like they put more on. And when I got my last pie there, the sauce was very visible.
Yeah, it's
and
on top.
Asked, yes, and they said they always put it on top of the cheese, which is a choice.
Yeah.
Yes, which some people say that sauce on top of cheese leads to like a crispier base because it doesn't have that same moisture if you put sauce then cheese.
And for me, I love that we're talking about sauces, and tomato sauce because I think we usually focus on the dough. But I think there's a change in attitude. And I think the movement now is to talk more of how tomato sauce can add umami. And I'll give you an example, like New York famed chef Wally Dufresne, he adds soy sauce to his tomato sauce.
Really?
Yeah. The Modernist Cuisine Nathan Murrow, he suggests using fish sauce in your tomato sauce. And or even MSG. And the point that they're both trying to make is you want to use a tomato sauce to add umami component. It's just a cheap, easy way to do it.
Tomatoes already have their own innate umami. I feel like it's really going overboard to put fish sauce or soy sauce for a really traditional style pizza, where you can achieve that incredible umami tomato sauce without resorting to those measures. And a lot of places do.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't want to die on this hill. We're going to move on, and we'll talk about the first runner-up. Taking second place is Bar del Corso on Beacon Hill. It's one of my favorite restaurants. I think it's a lot of people's favorite. It's a restaurant that I usually suggest to out-of-town guests and relatives. It's along a restaurant road that's probably the hippest in the city now, sandwiched between Family Friend and Homer. The only people I know who don't like Bar del Corso is the fact that they don't think this is a legitimate Neapolitan-style pizza.
Why?
Well, because a true Neapolitan-style pizza, it's going to be soft and chewy on the crust and soupy in the center.
Oh.
See, that's not the way that most people like their pizza. I would argue like Neapolitan-style pizza is so popular around the world now. I mean, I went to South America, and they make really good Neapolitan-style pizza.
Oh, yeah, same in Japan.
Yeah, Japan's supposed to make the best Neapolitan-style pizza.
Also in Mexico.
For me, I think Neapolitan-style pizza is the one style pizza that you cannot make at home. Because we're at this stage now where everyone loves to make pizza at home. But I would contend it's the one pizza that is the hardest to try to duplicate at home. For one thing, you need to cook it at 800 degrees at least. And yes, even if you buy a pizza oven off Amazon or a pizza maker, I don't care what the instructions tell you. I am convinced it does not get as hot as 800 degrees. And if it does, it doesn't retain the heat. The floor of the oven isn't hot enough. So I contend it's like impossible to duplicate.
We got my dad an uni for Father's Day a couple of years ago, and it is a wood-fired oven. It can rip to like 800 degrees. But that's the other thing about like pizza is everything. Cooking a pizza is not just having an 800-degree oven. Like my mom, God love her, her dough is like made in a food processor, or she gets like batch dough from Costco. And just because they've got this oven, it's not the same. Even if you have an oven or even if you have a really great dough, not anybody is going to be able to produce a Bar del Corso pizza. It's just not. Yeah. It's impossible.
And the pizza makers at Bar del Corso and Delancey both have tons of experience, and they are keeping that oven wood fired to this like extremely high temperature with a level of expertise that, I'm sorry, the rest of us would just be arson.
Yes, like why?
And burns, you know?
The moral of the story is, do not make Neapolitan style at home. Don't even try it. Get a Bar del Corso. Oh, and if you disagree with me, you can email Jackie and Bethany at Seattle Times. Just don't bug me.
All my emails are set up to auto-forward to you anyway.
And finally, our winner, the undisputed best pizza in Seattle. It might surprise you that it's actually from Burien. Stevies Famous, which started in Burien in 2021, but they opened a second location on Beacon Hill. And so we're going to claim it as our own in Seattle.
It's inside the Clock Out Lounge, actually, which is an incredible longtime music venue. But for Stevie's service there, it's all ages. So it is open to kids.
Oh, and I love that. So there's two places you can get Stevie's. We have some slices hot out of the toaster oven. It's a sausage pizza. And I think they make the best sausage pizza in Seattle. It's more gourmet than most spots. Pickled peppers that they do it in-house. It's caramelized onions. It's just little nubs of like sausage that has so much flavor. So let's eat.
Speaking of crust, as we were already at exceptionally great length, Stevie's crust is hands down my favorite in the city. It's got the faintest echo of a tang from their sourdough starter, which is named Ruth in honor of this activist scholar, Ruth Wilson Gilmore. And they brush the outer edges of the crust with olive oil. You can see it sort of glistens a little bit. And that's part of what makes the outer edges of Stevie's crust unleave behindable, right?
I think what makes them so distinctive is like there's that zing of fermentation that you don't get in other slice shops. It's very distinctive. And I just love it. Like you guys, I love the crust. It has that New York fold, right? It's easily foldable.
Okay, this is a hot take. If you fold pizza, it's a sandwich. Why are we folding it?
I totally agree. I feel like I don't want crust on top and bottom.
No. If I want that, I'll order a calzone.
Right. Stromboli me in that case.
Yes.
If I go out for a New York slice and I fold a slice, I put it in my mouth, my palate would just reject it and say, what's going on here? And just like make me spit it out.
Yeah.
Because when you fold a pizza and you eat it, it's like the alchemy is off. And I just realized how pompous I just sound. The alchemy is off. But it's true. It's like you're eating a calzone or a cheese pizza sandwich.
Yes.
It's not the same. I don't understand this New York fold stuff. I'm glad we're on agreement.
That's why we live in Seattle.
There you go.
We're all anti-fold, and we all picked Stevie's Famous as the best in the city, independently of each other under cones of silence.
Under deep cones of silence.
Yeah.
That conference room was awkward.
Yeah.
Okay, so we haven't talked about the sauce yet with Stevie's because there is no sauce on the sausage pizza, which I do think is a choice for sure. And I do love Stevie's sauce. I think their cheese pizza is the best, partially because of the sauce. But I'm not mad that there's not sauce on this because there's enough between all the cheeses and the different onions and the spice.
It's an incredible white pie. It has like the spiciness and the richness. But I agree with you. Stevie's sauce is incredible. I feel like it gets the balance of sweet and salt and freshness and zing, like tartness. Like exactly right.
And this is fancier than a slice shop needs to be. It's gourmet. And people make a big deal because it's $6 or $7 a slice, but this is legit. I mean, there's not a lot of things you can eat in this city for under $10 that's this good and this filling.
Well, yeah, they're pretty. I think I've gone to the Varriano location, gotten 3 slices, and had to take 2 of them home. I think they're pretty substantial for a slice. And I do agree with you also, Bethany, like this is a beautiful tomato sauce in a very different way than the Post Alley tomato sauces. But I love them both because like one is jammy and oregano-y, and the other one is just like so tomatoey and delicious.
Yeah. So we determined the winner. Let's backtrack a little bit. Who did not make the bracket that you felt should have?
Independent Pizzeria at the end of Madison, right where it hits the lake. They are incredible. They've been there for a really long time. They make beautiful pizza. Go eat it. They deserved so much better.
They should have been our Final Four. I think they do make some of the best pizza. Jackie, who got robbed in this bracket?
Well, I was thinking about how weird this bracket would have been like 2 years ago, and how maybe like the North Lake Tavern pizza stands would have showed up en masse. Or like I still think about Chachi's, who used to do a pizza pop-up, and he had this abuela pizza, and the sauce was almost like more like a salsa, and there was just a grip of fresh herbs on top, and it was such a different pizza. I just love how far Seattle has come as a pizza town.
I love that Ananas, his sort of Lao take on pizza, went very far.
Went super far, yeah.
And rightfully so.
Yes.
My vote would be for my friend Derek's. Now, they do not have a storefront. It's a pop-up in Fremont. But that's a great Detroit-style pizza with a thick crust, like a focaccia buttery dough.
Which also is another thing is not any of our like pan-style pizzas, Detroit-style pizzas made it. I mean, being from the Midwest, there wasn't a single tavern-style pizza that even came anywhere within sniffing distance. It's interesting who made it through and who didn't.
You know who shocked me?
Who?
About in this bracket that they didn't make farther is Pagliacci.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not saying they would have been in my Final Four.
Oh, but because they are so ubiquitous?
Yeah, because they're the home team, and I thought people would love it.
I grew up eating Pagliacci, and it was probably my favorite pizza for a long time. I think it's gotten less consistent as someone who has still been ordering it time to time. And I noticed it got really expensive. They first instituted, I think, a $4 delivery fee that was not going to the drivers. And then that went up to $5, and now it's $7. And my regular order for large pizza with a number of toppings on it and a small salad, I think started approaching $70, $60. And then you start thinking about the value proposition there, right?
Okay, we'll leave it there for today. Bethany, Jackie, thanks for having lunch with me.
Thanks, Ton.
Thank you. It's so fun to talk about pizza forever and ever and ever and ever and ever.
Coming up next, we talk about the hottest new restaurant in Seattle right now. Stick around. It's time for the part of the show we're calling Tip of the Week. My producer, Claire McRain, is in the studio. So this segment was your idea. I want you to explain it. What are we doing here?
Well, in this show, we are going to talk a lot about some of the best food in Seattle and get like your insight, the insight of all of these wonderful people who work in Seattle's restaurant industry or write about it. But I still only have so much time and money to spend eating out, right? I can't go check every single place. So in this segment, you are going to be like a personal trainer for a Seattle foodie, right? Like, how do you skip the line to get into this place? Or if I only get one opportunity to try something at this restaurant, what should it be? So I want to know where the hottest place is in Seattle that I should go check out right now.
Oh, that's easy. That would be Diamond Bay in Chinatown. And I should put an asterisk on this one, Claire, because they just opened They still have their training wheels. They're still in their dress rehearsal stage. But it's getting so much buzz, Claire. It doesn't matter that it's imperfect. People are lining up outside like a block long on weekends just to try this place. I mean, even the staff were telling them to lower their expectation, but it does not matter. You do not get a lot of dim sum restaurants in Seattle. Just because it's multi-layered, it's so hard to put together because you need a dim sum chef in the morning that make dozens of different dumplings with fillings and vegetarian fillings and pork and so forth. And then in the evening, you transition to Cantonese seafood restaurant, and that requires a totally separate menu. You have roast duck, walnut shrimp, which everyone loves these days. Mm-hmm. So it takes so many moving parts that it's impossible pretty much to open something like a giant dim sum hall in Seattle with the high cost of food, with the high cost of labor especially. So this is a big deal.
Okay, when you say this is a big dim sum hall, how big do you mean?
It can seat up to 300 people.
Oh my gosh, that's like a small plane.
Right? And there's still a long line outside. Mm. And like a lot of dim sum places, it's as efficient as an airport cafe. You're in and they get you out, and they don't care if you give them bad Yelp reviews. All they care about is move your butt out of there.
I always feel that way. You know, the only place that I really go for dim sum is if I do kind of a celebratory meal or something and go to Din Tai Fung, and I feel like they're like, okay, what do you want? Get out of here. Good to know I'm not imagining that.
No, exactly. And I guess most mainstream restaurants care about Yelp. And they care about very much when they get a bad Yelp review. What I love about a lot of these restaurants with an international theme or maybe in Chinatown, they really don't care about Yelp. And they just want you in and out. And you want to talk about lines. Diamond Bay has a line.
How
On
long?
the weekends, the line is out the door. I heard people say the wait is an hour or longer. I would tell people to give it another week or 3 until the buzz died down. But we know in this reality, people has got to check whatever's new. They got to check out what's shiny and new. I have a couple of suggestions. One, try to go on a weekday, cough, cough, call in sick, so that you can take a lunch break. And it will be easy to grab a seat. And number 2, and this is important, especially on the weekend, the host will tell you, are you willing to share a table? The reason why is if you say, no, we want our own table, then you're looking at an hour-long wait or longer, especially on the weekend. But if you're willing to share a table, and there's usually a table for 10, then you will be seated much, much sooner. Because people usually come in 2 or 4, so they'll put 2 parties of 4, and the next party of 2, they'll fit that, and boom, they're done. And you would be seated much, much sooner.
Almost like sitting at the bar at a lot of places, right?
Yeah. It's like communal dining, sort of, right? It's a weird concept that a lot of Americans don't like. But you go to these restaurants, and when they say, are you willing to share a table? I guarantee you, most Asian parties, because of a cultural thing, they get this. They say, yeah, sure. They'll share a table.
I'm seeing that more and more. I feel like in like food halls or places that have outdoor dining with like big, long picnic tables, I think that's becoming a little more common. But you're right. It's really not the way that Americans would approach eating out.
And if that makes you uncomfortable, then I guess you have to deal with the longer lines. But if you want to embrace this, you will be in and out of Diamond Bay, the hottest restaurant, easily, like within an hour.
Other than the fact that this is big, it's like a big opening in Chinatown, why is it so popular? Like what is really good about it?
People love dim sum, especially in the Asian community. It's a big deal. You eat with family and friends on Friday and Saturday and Sunday morning. And for people who aren't Asian, who this isn't a part of their culture, they still love it because, okay, I hate to say this, and we'll get angry emails, but American brunch suck. It's just eggs, right?
Whoa.
I mean, think about this. What do you get when you're out there for like just typical mainstream brunch? It's usually eggs and pancakes.
Hash browns.
Sure, hash browns. It's that same concept. But I think with a dim sum, I think the reason why so many people love it, because there are like dozens of options. Every table will order at least 5 or 6 different dumplings and sticky rice and chow fun noodle has just become a thing, and people love this.
Going back to what you said earlier about the variety, that is the thing I love about dim sum, especially with a big group, is you can get like 6 different kinds of dumplings and you get to try all of them rather than getting one plate of French toast and then me convincing my husband to let me eat some of his meal also,
Right? It's so hard to put together. So when there is a dim sum restaurant and it's in Seattle, people go gaga over this. Another reason why, and this should be a reminder for all of us, how important restaurants are to a community. The pandemic, which seems like eons ago, it just destroyed Chinatown. And I would say Chinatown has not recovered as fast and as smoothly as other neighborhoods. It still resembles a ghost town, especially during the weekday. And I would say that this anchor, that is Diamond Bay, has really generated so much foot traffic. People just walking around, they're paying for parking and, they're drinking bubble tea as they wait outside or whatever. And I would say this is the most important restaurant to open in Chinatown since the pandemic.
And that's so interesting as well, just because the rest of the city does seem in many ways like it's kind of gotten to where it was. Like walking around different neighborhoods, it doesn't feel too different from before the pandemic. But you're right. Every time I'm in Chinatown or other parts of the ID, it just feels so different than the kind of vibrant, full place that it was beforehand. So that's really exciting that, more people are around at different times of day and they're kind of hanging out, like you said, while they wait for a table. That's really funny. Maybe the long lines are a good thing then.
It is a good thing, I guess, if you own Diamond Bay. It's great for you. But I think for the rest of us, especially now that the weather has started to turn a little bit, instead, I would drive to Bellevue and hit Sun Sui Wah. You can drive to Bellevue and be seated at Sun Sui Wah faster than just going directly to Diamond Bay because the line is just ridiculously long.
Wait, but is Sun Sui Wah as good as Diamond Bay?
I think right now they do the best dim sum on the east side, and people would say the Seattle area too.
Yeah.
Sun Sui Wah is based in Richmond, BC, and when they came to Bellevue, it was such a big deal that the wait was 3 hours. For a table. This is why you should give it time, because it has died down. And actually, you don't even need to stand in line on the weekday. You can just walk in on the weekday. Weekend is still chaotic, but there are 2 ways to hack this. One is go in a big group. They don't take reservation, but if you have at least 6 people in your group, you can call and they will allow you to make a reservation because it's really hard to seat 6 people or more.
So you got to find 5 friends at least.
Yes. Find 5 best friends. There you go. The other is eat early, even on weekends. They open at 9 a.m. on weekends, and at 9 to 10, there's no one there. They also have like an early bird special, and that is 10% off your bill.
Really?
Yeah. So if you come at 9 and you leave before 11, the madhouse starts, it's 10% discount, and you usually do not have to stand in line.
What? They need to advertise that better. That's incredible. What a good deal.
Yeah. This is a restaurant chain that started in Richmond, BC, and that's actually very common in Richmond, BC, where they have such a huge Chinese population that they all do this to try to fill their seats from 9 to 10 to even 11 a.m., and Sun Sui Wah has brought that culture to the east side.
Well, Tan, thank you for answering all my questions so patiently.
Oh, this is fun. Let's do it again.
Well, it turns out we're making a podcast, so we will. I'll see you on the next episode.
There you go. That's a wrap. Thanks for listening to our first episode. We'll be back again in 2 weeks. A reminder that we have a list of all the spots we recommended today in the descriptions of this episode. There's also a link to our pizza stories in the Seattle Times. Seattle Eats is a production of the Seattle Times and KUOW, part of the NPR network. You can support Seattle Eats by investing in the local newsroom and the specialized beats that make this sort of storytelling possible. Please consider joining and subscribing at kuow.org/eats and seattletimes.com. Seattle Eats is produced by Claire McRain and edited by Jim Gates and Trevor Lensmeyer. I'm Tan Vin. Catch you next time.
You hear a poem about crust and dough and wheat, in your head, and water and sunlight. I'm sorry. I'm going to start.
Mary Oliver does pizza. That's what we're doing.
Crying. Please pass those tissues.